Welcome to Winging It. Today we're starting off a brand new Arkham Horror the Card Game campaign. This is going to be a return to the Path to Carcosa, which has just come out. I just opened the box today. I got the player cards out, sleeved up all the encounter cards, and ready to go. Carcosa is I would say, not only my favorite cycle from this game, but maybe my best gaming experience ever. Carcosa is just so good. So good that I was a little bit trepidatious about the Return To product coming out because, I don't want to mess with a good thing. But it seems like it's just mixing it up a little, and from what I've heard from earlier reports, so I'm looking forward to trying that. I'm going to be playing Minh and Silas. Silas is definitely in my top 5 investigators. He is... I enjoy playing him so much. I've made the argument that he's the best overall enemy management investigator in the game with his 4 fight and his 4 agility. And so I just wanted a chance to play him. He's really good in Carcosa, where being able to fight and evade is very useful with a lot of the non-hunter enemies, and he can just do really well there. And Minh, who I'll get to in a minute, is a seeker that I really enjoy. I would say she may be my second favorite seeker behind Daisy, and I really do like all the seekers. But she's a different flavor from Daisy. She's not so much a cluever, although she can certainly get clues, as she is just somebody that helps everybody pass tests. But it's really going to be fun to play her and Silas together because they're both all about skill cards. And, in the current state of the game, skill cards are not necessarily something that people lean into heavily in a lot of the investigators. We're seeing people move away from those into more assets, more events, and a lot of builds take very few skill cards. And, like in my last campaign that I did, TCU with Diana and Preston, there was very few skill cards. When it may have been like 6 skill cards between both investigators. So it'll be fun to lean into skill cards. One of the really fun things about playing skill card heavy decks is that you don't require much setup. You just have your hand, you're ready to go. Let's go for it. So I'll talk a little bit about Silas. First of all, the important thing. Here's my miniature, custom created on Hero Forge and painted. I'm not a pro painter, but got. I do my best. My wife is much better at these things. And then let's talk about Silas. He is right now he's a book-only investigator, so I'm using his book SIGs. Eventually he'll come out. And I highly encourage, getting his book. The SIGs in the book is really good. I'm sure even when he comes out as a real investigator that you're going to want to play these. But he's also just a lot of fun. I feel like, again, he's not the best killer in the game. He's not the best evader in the game. But for a general mixed strategy, where you need the right tool for the job, if you build him well, he does both. And part of that is because if you look at his stats, he's got this 4 fight, 4 agility, and that just gives him the ability to manage enemies, in the best way possible. The other thing about him that's interesting is he's got the 2 willpower and the 2 intellect, but it turns out that those don't hurt him as much as you would think that they do. It's because of his style of overcommitting to tests. He can often hit those tests when he needs to, and even as a solo investigator, I found that you can get clues. In various ways. I've run him through solo Dunwich. But I'm not playing him solo today, so I'm leaning heavier into combat and evasion and being able to deal with enemies and letting men handle the clues almost entirely. I'm not running him Dark Horse. Dark Horse is sometimes what I would do with him in order to as a solo build, it just makes him a little bit easier to pass, the willpower and intellect tests. It makes him fight, and evade real strong. And he doesn't need a lot of resources because he's committing skills so much to test. But I do like running him non-Dark Horse in multiplayer, sometimes even solo, because it lets him be able to save up and play some of the more expensive. I mean, he doesn't have to spend a lot of resources, but, a nice will to survive, or, being able to get out of Time Worn Brand later on, those things, work out really well if you're just going to spend resources, here or there every once in a while. It also works well with Take Heart, which is I only like in Silas. I don't really like it in anything else. Anyway, let's talk about his ability. It says, if you can read it, after you reveal a chaos token during a skill test you're performing, return the skill committed to this test to your hand, limit once per round. So this is actually a little bit hard to maybe you don't quite get it right away. Basically, you're taking the skill card back, so it doesn't affect the test. This lets you to overcommit to tests and say, okay, well, I'm not going to lose this card if I fail, or I'm not going to lose this card if I succeed. The only time I want to leave this committed is if it's going to actually affect the outcome of the test. So it allows them to take lots of skill cards, overcommit them, pull them back, and keep reusing them until they matter. And that's really good. And there are two cards, his signature card and Defiance, where you can get an effect from the card even if you pull it back. So that's nice. His Elder Sign effect, I would argue, is the best in the game. Now, I know other people would say Mateo is, and maybe it is. I don't know. All I know is when I see this, it just, it's like a game changer. It feels so good. So basically, you can go to your discard pile and commit a skill card to this and then get it back into your hand, which, a lot of times you're just going to end up getting Resourceful back and then using that to pull something else back, and then you can play Resourceful later, and that's a good play. But even just getting an Unexpected Courage or something else, is really nice. So, yeah, being able to pull back skill cards into your hand and commit them to tests is really wonderful. He's got the 9/5 health, or 9 health, 5 sanity. It's pretty risky with his health, that's why. But with Peter Sylvester, largely mitigates that. And so that's kind of our strategy, is just lean, heavily into Peter. Also, the Meat Cleaver can be a nice offhand weapon for healing horror if you're willing to slow play, killing enemies and, killing them without taking the horror on the Meat Cleaver. So that is that's his card. His deck building is that he gets to take all the survivor cards, plus he gets to take innate cards, which has only gotten better. And you'll see, some of the really good innate cards here. There's also some good ones I didn't take, just because, kind of spoiled for choice. But, hey, let's look at his SIGs. So, this is a signature event, Nautical Prowess. It's only in his deck. It's a replacement card, which means you could run it alongside or instead of his normal cards, which we don't even have yet. So this is what you run if you're running Silas. It says if Chaos with negative modifiers revealed during this test, either draw 1 card or Nautical Prowess gains 2 ? Which just makes you just pass tests. But the cool thing is you can pull it back if you get the negative modifier, don't leave it committed to test, and still get to draw the card. So it gives them some card draw. Also, notice that the icons here are leaning heavily into his weak stats. So this becomes a 2 willpower, or even a 4 willpower if you draw a negative, or a 2 intellect or a 4 intellect if you draw a negative, which helps him to be able to, if you really need to pass that one big willpower or intellect test or whatever, this card will let you do it. Plus, it just gives you lots of card draw. So, very useful skill card. Now, his this Dreams of the Deep, which is really cool. The art is, it's monotone, very nice. Looks very dark. I like it. It basically, it's again Silas Marsh deck. It's a replacement. It goes alongside the other one. The skill icon subtracts from your skill value instead of adding to it. If it fails, return the skill to your hand. If Dreams of the Deep is in your hand at the end of your turn, reveal it and take 2 damage. With his high damage soak, it's not too bad, and usually you can find a test that you just overcommit to, and basically it just ends up eating a few skill cards. Eats an Unexpected Courage, but it's not that bad. Usually you can find something that you can pass. So let's go on to my choices. So Meat Cleaver is a newer card that just has Silas written all over it. Meat Cleaver lets you, you can take horror and do 2 damage whenever you, whenever you kill something, you can heal the horror. It's got great synergy with Peter Sylvester. It's a good offhand weapon. Eventually, I'll want to run this alongside a Time-Worn Brand, which is really good for him. But in the meantime, it's just a great weapon. The only bad thing is when you get to a point where you actually can't take the horror, or it will kill you, to get the 2 damage. But honestly, you could just evade and just ping it. So. Fire Axe, it used to be that I run Silas, I would run Labranche and really lean high into Fire Axe. I'm not taking Labranche here, not leaning, the Fire Axe is just something I've got, so I have a backup weapon for the Meat Cleaver. The goal will be to replace this with the Time-Worn Brand very, very quickly. I don't want to run him You know, with Dark Horse, this would be nice synergy, but running him broke is not really my goal here. But it'll work in a pinch. Grizzly Totem. It probably seems like it has Silas written all over it. I've run it with and without him. It's nice, but it does cost a little bit. It just gives him a little bit more oomph when he's committing skill cards tests. Makes it a little bit nicer to pass. I am running it. I definitely can see builds without it. I don't think it's an auto include for him, but it's nice when you can get it down. Peter Sylvester, I think you either take Labranche or Peter Sylvester with Silas, depending on whether you're leaning into Dark Horse. But since I'm Dark Horse and Fire Axe, since I'm not taking Dark Horse and I plan to replace Fire Axe, Peter Sylvester is the way to go. I'm running another campaign currently where my wife is playing Carolyn. Of course, she gets Peter in that case. So in that campaign, I'm running Yodel, which is interesting and fun. And it's certainly doable, but I still like Peter the best, especially since it gives him that evasion. And the upgrade will give him evasion and willpower, which is a nice stat boost. And then, being able to cover his low sanity is nice. So that's that. The one thing I will mention about the Grizzly Totem is it takes up the same slot as Cherished Keepsake, which I would sometimes run for Sanity Soak, especially when you only have Peter who can soak one horror without defeating him. So it's a little bit risky, but I think I'll be okay. Especially since I've got the Fine Clothes. Now, Fine Clothes, this is just teched for Carcosa. I only have 2 Fine Clothes, cards. So instead of running them in Min, I'm going to run him in Silas. He gets to be the Fine Clothes person. And I'll end up replacing these with probably one Eucatastrophe and the other Will to Survive. So I've got an upgrade path plan for that. Track Shoes. They're a good card. They add to your agility, so he can be evading with this and Peter. He could be evading at a good 6. Gives him nice evasion strats. Plus, it lets him move around really good, especially kind of mid campaign. When you go into the asylum, it's good to have the movement. I don't think the Track Shoes is an auto include in Silas, but they are good. They're good in anybody you can put them in, especially if they're going to be evading. So I like Track Shoes, and it's good in him. I've run builds without him, especially if you're going to run a asset light and play able-bodied. But I'm not doing that here, so Track Shoes, kind of works there. So my only event is Lucky, because Lucky is good, and I have 2 of the alt art cards that I got from an invocation kit I got from participating in invocation, and another one that I won from a Mythos Busters contest. So, thank you, Mythos Busters. That was really cool to have 2 of those, to have the pair of the Luckies. So I have Unexpected Courage is just pretty much an auto-include in Silas. People talk about this being an auto-include in every deck, and more and more I'm not running Unexpected Courage in a lot of my decks, but you are going to run it in Silas. Just, it's 2 of anything. You can pull it back if, you don't need it, or if you needed it, you can leave it committed. It's just a good card in Silas. Steadfast is a card that I run in almost every deck that can take it. It's not hard for it to be 3 willpower or 3 fight. Obviously, 3 willpower is good for Silas, who has only 2 willpower, and being able to fight also is really good. So, I'm usually including this instead of Guts when I can. So, just like Steadfast. Not Without a Fight. This is to help him fight and evade. It's going to pump up his stats whenever he's engaged with somebody, which he usually will be. I've actually never run this card. But I feel like it's good in Silas, so we're going to do it. Yeah. I'm going to say. I've had it, I've just never used it that much. So, okay, Stunning Blow. I love this card. Affectionately known as Thud. Great flavor text. Stunning Blow is really good. It's action efficient when you actually need to evade something, but keep damaging it. Keep working on it. I just like it. It's a 2-of for me. So, that's what Stunning Blow is. Alright, Quick Thinking. Love Quick Thinking. Get extra actions. This is a nice one, especially when you got eventually got Will to Survive, and you just need to take those big turns. We are playing Taboo, so I can't commit multiple of these on a single turn, but that's not really what I'm trying to do, so it's not a big deal. Love Quick Thinking. It doesn't go into all my Silas decks, but it is going into this one. Alright, now on to Take Heart. Take Heart has no icons. You can commit to any test. It lets you draw. It lets you draw 2 cards and 2 resources when you fail. I don't like this. A lot of people like this in a lot of decks. I only like it in Silas. Only deck I take it in. Of course, I don't play that many survivors other than Silas. Yeah, Take Heart I like in Silas because it can do work for you. You can commit it to marginal tests and pull it back, and it just kind of gives you high value for taking marginal tests, and you don't lose it. Like, you don't want to only commit it to tests that you're going to bomb, which I think you kind of have to do to get value from it in others. Whereas it's like a reverse lucky, I guess, in that I can test at 0 to get a clue, and if I get a clue, I'm happy. And if I fail, I'm happy, because then I get 2 cards and 2 resources. Kind of Take Heart is anti-synergy with Dark Horse, which is one reason that this is not a Dark Horse deck. So, Resourceful, really good. And it's really good in Silas because it lets you pull back survivor cards, which is nice. You can pull back your luckies, I can pull back Stunning Blow, I can pull back, track shoes. Well, I probably wouldn't lose a track shoes, but a weapon, whatever, anything I've lost. But usually it's going to end up being, a lucky that I'll get back with this, or Will to Survive, You Catastrophe, those kind of cards. But what's really cool is if you draw Elder Sign, you can, pull this back, commit it to a test, and then, on that action, get a card back, and then play it again and get another card back. So, yeah. It's just a really good card. Defiance is just broken, especially level 2 Defiance. And honestly, I usually wouldn't include Defiance in a level 0 Silas deck. I usually just include the upgraded Defiance. That is because, you have to name the token instead of just using any kind of picture token with the leveled up version. But in Carcosa, with 3 skulls, there's a good bet that you can just name the skulls and you have a good chance of hitting it. And you've only got one other kind of picture token to deal with. So Defiance level 0 is better in Carcosa. But the thing is, with him, is you can pull it back, and the effect, because it's a... because it's when you reveal the token, you can pull this back, and you're ignoring it. The timing works that you can pull this back, and the token is still get ignored. So you can just commit this to every test and just ignore when the skulls get big, or if there's like a really bad negative effect you're trying to avoid. That is just a good card in Silas. You can just keep playing it over and over and over again. Finally, we got the weakness that we drew. We drew Psychosis, which is after you take 1 or more horror, take a direct damage. It's just not a big deal. This actually is pretty light for Silas, because he's not going to be taking horror much, and he has a big damage soak, biggest damage soak in the game. So anyway, that's Silas. That's where we're going with it. Now we'll take a look at Min. All right, now we have Min T Fan. Here is her miniature, also created off of Hero Forge, and also painted by me. So, actually just painted this one this week in preparation for this campaign. So, we're going to take a look at her stat line. She's got exactly the opposite stats from Silas, which, again, makes them kind of a good pairing. She's got 4 willpower, 4 intellect, and then her enemy management stats are very, very low. Like Silas, she doesn't suffer too much from her low stats. She can usually overcome the weakness very well. So, just I guess, testament to the power of committing cards. So anyway, her free action ability is, after an investigator at your location commits a card to a skill test, that card gains an extra icon until the end of the test. Once per investigator per round. So obviously, committing cards is a huge part of her play. Silas will get a benefit from being around her. She can commit cards to Silas tests. He can commit cards to her tests. Yeah, they're just going to be able to be very, very committed. Her effect is +1. You may choose a skill card committed to the skill test to return to an owner's hand after the skill test ends. No big deal. It's not a great Elder Sign effect. I very rarely get much benefit out of it, and she's usually got enough cards in her hand. It's not a big deal. She's even 7/7 as far as health and sanity. Not too much to risk there. Fairly standard, and very, very flat. So not too much of a risk. So she her deck building is basically your normal 5-2 main class, off class. She gets main class Seeker, off class Survivor. So we're dipping heavily into Survivor cards. And you'll notice here that I do have 4 copies of some cards. I do not have, lest you think I have bought 2 of everything. I don't have 2 of every set, but I do have extra copies of sets that I really find a lot of value. So you'll notice I have Fire Axe in both of them because I have 2 copies of Dunwich, and I've bought a couple of extra copies of packs that I find very useful. I'm running a lot of campaigns almost all the time, so if there's a card I see that I need in a lot of decks, I'll buy multiple copies because I'm that kind of crazy. But yeah, it makes stuff like this, kind of fun because I get to take Fire Axe in both of them, even if I'm not planning on sticking with it in Silas. So on to her signatures. Analytical Mind. She's one of those investigators who just loves having her signature out. This is a really good signature. It says you may commit 1 card to each skill test performed by an investigator at another location. So even remotely, she can commit cards to Silas's test as if he needs them. But it's really good. But kind of even a better effect is, or at least I think it's a better effect, is after you commit exactly 1 card to a skill test, exhaust the Analytical Mind, draw 1 card. So, well, I don't know if it's a better effect. They're both really good effects, and this is why. She's constantly replacing her cards, constantly drawing through her deck. And so, being able to, just throw cards at skill tests and replace them just means that she is, she's just helping everybody always pass tests all the time. It's wonderful. It's hard to fail tests with men around. So she's a great support in that way. Now her weakness, which you're going to see a couple different times, it takes up a hand slot, which stinks. It's going to remove either a magnifying glass or a Fire Axe or Occult Lexicon. It's going to remove something, or an Ancient Stone eventually. And it says you cannot commit exactly 1 or 2 cards to skill tests, which means she's not going to be able to commit cards to other people's tests, and she can't commit cards to her own tests. So it shuts her down for pretty well, because she just gets all her value out of committing cards. And then the free trigger after her skill test is successful, in which Minty Fan has committed at least 6 matching skill icons for this test. Discard the king in yellow. Since you can't commit 1 or 2 cards, you're going to have to commit 3 cards, so she's going to have to do a lot to get rid of that. She's going to have to overcommit and get rid of a bunch of cards. So it can shut her down for a turn or 2 if you're not ready for it, and it's very frustrating, and you will probably draw it more than once. So you just have to be ready to deal with it and not overvalue your hand slots too much. So speaking of hand slots, we have the Magnifying Glass. Pretty standard. She needs a boost to intellect. This will get it for her. I'm going to replace this with the Death Tarot card, which will mean that the King in Yellow won't kill it when it comes out. So that's nice. The tarots aren't great for her in that it ends up being a dead card. That she can't commit to things. So, such is life. I still would rather have those and free up her hand slots. And I'm planning to take Studious ×2 with her. And I found that makes hitting your tarot in your opening hand really quite good. So, then the Occult Lexicon. The Occult Lexicon, this is one of the new bonded cards, or it's new at the time of this recording. I've played it already in a couple of decks, and I really like it. It's limit 1 per deck. It basically, it pulls in these Blood Right cards, which I'll show. It puts 1 in your hand and puts 3 in your deck. As long as this is out, those cards are in your deck. So these cards are cool, because what Blood Right does, it's actually kind of complicated, but first you draw 2 cards. And it does not provoke an attack of opportunity. It says at the end, but that's important. Okay. Then you can discard up to 2 cards from your hand. And then for each card you discard, you can either take a resource or spend a resource and deal direct damage. So it gives Min a way to fight, or it gives her more card draw, or it gives her a way to get resources. And you'll see with this build, she really doesn't want too many resources. But being able to fight is going to be pretty good for her. But this will also synergize well with the Ancient Stone, which I eventually plan to get, which will allow her just to draw cards and do damage. So I haven't decided if I'll keep the Occult Lexicon all the way with her, because the resource requirement It doesn't really synergize well with Dark Horse. This is a Dark Horse Min deck, which I'll talk about in a second. So we'll see, how well that's going to work. But at least at the beginning, just for the card draw, I think it's a good card to have for her. All right, so Fire Axe. This is a way that she can fight. It works, it synergizes well with Dark Horse and with Labranche, which she has. And actually, even though she's only a fight 2, she can actually get up pretty high, committing, cards and, resources to Fire Axe, going broke. So yeah, Fire Axe is good for her. Grizzly Totem. This is one of those packs that I found very useful, mainly for the Enchanted Blade, which, the Enchanted Blade is so good. And the Meat Cleaver both came in this pack. But having extra Grizzly Totems is nice, especially for this. Both Min and Silas will benefit from having Grizzly Totems, which is just it's basically Min in an asset. So, she can actually have, take a 1 skill icon to 3 skill icons with her effect and with this. So it's going to allow her just to really hit test hard. So Labranche, this is kind of maybe the controversial choice in this deck. I know right now Mr. Rook is so strong, and he's kind of the one that you want to run with her. It helps her pull her analytical mind. What can I say? I like Dark Horse Min because it's fun, and I think if you're running Dark Horse Min, then you run Labranche. She works well with Fire Axe. She works well with being able to, if you're broke and you need to pay for something, she can help you pay for it very quickly. Then she's just nice. She synergizes well with Dark Horse. So we're running Labranche, and I found it to be very powerful with her, so that's what we're doing. And now this is Dark Horse, which she can take. And I've always thought Dark Horse was a natural fit for Min just because she likes skill cards. And so if you don't have to pay for cards, then it's just nice to run broke. And, this brings her, willpower up to 3, her agility up to 3, so that, her fight and her agility. So if she needs to fight with Fire Axe, or if she needs to pass an evade test and throw some icons at it, she can do that. Even if she's got a 1 icon to throw and she adds her ability into it, going from a 3 to a 5 actually will let her evade a lot of things. So like Silas, her ability makes her weak stats not so weak. And then having a 5 willpower and a 5 intellect, and then if you manage to get a Mag Glass out, or, Tarot investigating a 6, it's super powerful. So I like Dark Horse in her. It gets her nice and, to a really good stat line. So now we are running Ghastly Revelation. So this is a card like I'll See You in Hell, that you 90% of the time you're using it for the icons, but it can have a big effect. You can discover 3 clues at your location, give any clues to another investigator, and then you just peace out. You're defeated and you suffer 1 mental trauma. Does not provoke an attack of opportunity. So, and deceptively, the trauma could be a good thing if you're about to be defeated by damage and you want to take a mental trauma. Not such a big deal with Min, as she's got an even stat line. But I still think 2 intellect icons are good for her, and being able to have this big bomb effect may come in handy. I may end up replacing this card, but like I said, 90% of the time you're using it for the intellect, but if you ever need it for the big bomb effect, you'll be glad you have it. Okay, well, so now the namesake card here is Winging It, which I have actually never ever played before in a deck. And so why did I name my channel Winging It? Because it just feels like what I want to do. Not taking the game too seriously, just making it up as I go. So I figured I should probably throw it into Min. It's good in Min, and yeah, it reduces the Shroud. If it's in your discard pile, you can play it from your discard pile and get 2 clues at once. So yeah, action compression, low cost, nice card. Works with Labranche because you can get that resource if you need it to play it. Yeah, I like Winging It, and again, it's the name of the channel, so I should be happy to play it. Out of curiosity, I know there's not like a lot of love for this card. I've played it a little bit in other Seekers, and I found it to do fine. It's usually worth 2 willpower, 2 intellect icons, so yeah, I figured why not. Min can certainly make it work. I may not keep it for forever, but for now, seems to be a good card, so I'm going to take it. And Min usually has a lot of cards in her hand, because she gets so much card draw. She usually just has, she's usually going to be, it's not, that can often be 3 willpower or 3 intellect icons. I've got 2 Inquiring Minds. Good, especially it's good to have Inquiring Mind, not only because you can just smash tests and you're going to be at locations with clues, but for clearing the King in Yellow, having lots of icons to throw at it is good. Eureka, I like Eureka. I take Eureka a lot of decks. It lets you, it's got will, intellect, and agility, and it lets you, if you pass tests, you can, search through the next 3 cards. It's basically kind of like a Old Book of Lore in a skill card form. But of course, all these icons are worth 2 in her. I think it's just good for the effect just by itself. But being able to double the icons here makes it exceptionally good in Min. Deduction is just standard Seeker Fare. You take it. Clue Compression, it's good. Yeah, that's all there is to say about Deduction. Unexpected Courage, like in Silas, it's really good in Min because it's a skill card. It's got 2 icons. I don't put this in every deck, like I said, but I do put it in my Min decks because she makes it 3 skill icons. So, yeah. Perception, I'm taking all the cantrips in one form or another. It's good card draw. Min makes them good. She needs to be able to throw. The most likely test you're going to be passing a King in Yellow test where you're having to throw 3 cards at it is going to be Intellect. It's the kind of test that's almost always available to take, and so you want to have skill cards, so Perception's good. I'm taking 1 Manual Dexterity and 1 Overpower. These are kind of rare cards for her to want to use, but to have them in a pinch, they're kind of a good one-of. Enemy management stuff, if she needs to hit something with Fire Axe, or if she wants to help out Silas with his fight, or if she needs to be able to evade, you've got icons there that can help her out. So those might end up getting replaced, but I actually usually find myself committing them to tests with her. So we got Guts. You need to be able to pass willpower tests. It's a good card. She doesn't have access to Steadfast, so Guts it is. And again, I like the cantrips in her because replacing themselves is a good effect. She likes card draw, so we want to keep her hand filled with lots of cards. Finally, her weakness. She drew Indebted, which often can actually be really bad for a Dark Horse build because, you don't want, because it can be hard to get set up. Like without Indebted, you can play Labranche, Dark Horse in your opening hand, and then you're good to go. You can tap Labranche and, get resources to play other things. And you have your Dark Horse down. Now you have to pick between them and, kind of build up to play the other. But I don't think it's going to hurt us too much. Min is never going to be beyond, when she's poor, she's okay. She can still throw skill cards at things. So, yeah. I'm reasonably happy with Indebted. I know a lot of people say it's the easiest weakness. It just depends on the deck. Like, I used to say that, but I've played in some decks where it has really delayed my start. And you're going to hit it every single scenario. So, but it doesn't take out a card draw. And, since Min is drawing through her deck so many times, it's nice to only have the one weakness you're going to hit. So, I could have done worse than Indebted. It might be the lightest weakness, actually, for a Min deck, even a Dark Horse deck. So, anyway, those are the decks. I hope you've enjoyed my thought process behind it, as flawed as it may be. But this is what we're going into Return to Carcosa. So I hope you will join me at Curtain Call. And I will see you next time on Winging It.